Better than most other times.
Yeah, that's true.
There'll be not enough time.
All right.
Recording and everything.
Not enough, yeah.
Good evening. You're welcome to get some food while we're talking. We need to start on time tonight because we have a lot again to get through this evening. My name is Phil. I'm the president of Rotary After Hours. Welcome any guests that are here. This meeting is being recorded, so that you are aware. So if you can stand as you are able, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hope you all enjoyed the Super Bowl if you celebrate it. So, for those making any announcements, I invite you to please come forward up here. That way people can see you on the owl and they can hear you clearly. If you are making announcements and you may think that you may have a semi-soft voice, please make sure that you are trying to speak louder than me. That way they can hear you clearly. Welcome to those joining virtually as well. Guests, Ashley.
All right. So we have a couple visiting Rotarians. We have Meg's lunch. So if you want to say hi and maybe what club you're from. Hi. Oh, sorry.
The Zoom meetings.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm your admin. 6250. I started last July. I'm from the Philippines, but my home club here is Marsfield as a staff. But I'm also retired back in the Philippines. This is 3850. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have Scott Ryan.
Thank you. I'm with the Holman Club, and I'm hosting Megs for today and tomorrow, and welcoming her to our area, and then she'll be continuing on to the other clubs in La Crosse and serving our district all the way through the first week of March.
Thank you. All right, and then we have a couple visitors or guests as well. We have Katie Steve, so if you wanted to say where you're from, and then we have a question. What is your favorite dessert? You can stand up, but you don't.
Okay. Katie Steve, I'm the director of programming and personnel for the RAH Technology Center. We talked to you shortly about the trafficking. My favorite dessert, I really love Boston cream pie.
Very good. Thank you. And then we have Brooke.
Hi, Brooke. Yeah, I'm with the Cross Police Department. I'm currently a sergeant there. I've done a couple different roles for my career there. I've been there about 12 years now. I'm also one of the driving forward, so we kind of help I do a little bit of education. My favorite dessert, I have a brownie. That's a brownie.
Very good. Thank you. And then we have Lexi.
Hi, I'm Lexi, 8th grade. I work for New Horizons. I just started there as an outreach advocate. And my favorite dessert is ice cream.
Do you have a favorite flavor of ice cream?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Very good. Thank you. And then we have Pete. Sorry, you have food in your mouth.
What was the question?
If you wanted to say your name and then where you work or where you're from and what your favorite dessert is.
Hi, I'm Pete. I work at News 8. I'm from Turkey. And my favorite dessert is a raspberry cheesecake.
Nice. Good. Thank you. And then we have Nikki here, who is Ida's host mom. You don't have, if you want, you can introduce yourself, but you don't have to.
Hi, Nikki. She already said who I am and what I'm doing here. So my most important favorite dessert is,
I have too many to list. So, sorry. All right, thank you. All right, that is it. So welcome, guest visitors joining us.
Thank you, Ashley. And, oh, visitors online, or anybody online? Nobody?
Nobody yet.
Okay. Happy birthdays to those in February. February 10th, Steph. February 11th, James. February 27th, May. Happy birthday and future birthday. Anniversaries for RAH. Jeremy, 12 years. Laura Lee, 12 years. Liz, 9 years. Eileen, 3 years. And none of them are. Happy anniversary. Service committee, where's Alicia?
It's been a minute to be sick and holidays and stuff, but so we do have a service award for quarter two, which would be October, November, December of 2023.
Took a while to get here.
Yeah, yeah. But so with further ado, for the quarter two service award, we to Marissa.
Yeah.
For a number of things, for facilitating club participation for iFeed and other different events. She's consistent with publishing the Chronicle monthly newsletter, and then her attendance overall for meetings and then service events.
Come on up. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Okay.
Picture.
Bill, that's you too.
Oh.
I got your memo.
Oh. There you go.
This probably won't get posted on Facebook.
All right.
Okay.
Where is he?
Yeah. All right. So our March membership month big event is on March 26th. And it's going to be at the Hatchery. And we're going to be honored to have Tom Thibodeau speak to us. If you haven't heard Tom Thibodeau, he's an incredible speaker. Very motivating, has very captivating energy. And he's just going to touch on creating hope in the world and what the benefits of are being part of clubs like this.
So Neil, for our guests, what is March for us?
March is our membership month. So this is our big month for all of us to try to recruit new members so we can do more projects in the community and do more good and create more change. And we're relying heavily on our existing members, bring new members in and just show them they don't have to join, right? They don't have to join, but just come in and experience Rotary and just see if it's the right fit for them. I saw something that 9% of people that you make personal invitations to join a club accept that invitation. So we rely heavily on our existing members to make this a hit. The more people, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's very, he's right, about between 90 and 99% of people who will join an organization or come to see it is a personal invitation. And you get people who come and see what we do, hear about it, get to see all these awesome people, and then just be around people that are like-minded and love serving people. And you invite 10 people, if 1 or 2 show up, maybe one of those people will possibly join. So it'll be an awesome time to do it. They get great food, hear good music, and play some games. February 20th, next Tuesday, we are kind of shifting what we are doing. Instead of having a guest person to come and talk the strategic plan, I love strategic plan, we are shifting to kind of a brainstorming. So this is even more important because you have such a loud voice if you show up. Join a committee that you are really passionate about, interested in, and kind of look at the goals, but also bring your ideas with you. They will get written down, shared, and discussed, and we're gonna have food, and you get to be around, again, all these awesome people. So if you signed up for the original strategic plan, still please come. This is just as important. And then the people who have not signed up already, we will have a sign up sheet go around. And it's just to know how much food to order and so on. So please come. This is very important. Thursday, February 22nd. Do you want to talk about this stuff?
No,
Oh my gosh.
Sure.
All right.
There you go.
Who's ready to bring some Rotary after hours X Games energy to Mount Cross? February 22nd, baby. We're gonna meet at the biggest jump. Dr. James Murray and Marissa are going to have a backflip contest.
What's the next game?
X Games, baby, you didn't want that. Well, on the real, Ben set this up to be on a Thrifty Thursday. So a week from this Thursday, the 22nd, it's a really inexpensive lift ticket on Thrifty Thursday. So you can get up the lift and enjoy the ski hill that night all together. And I called today and they are planning to be open. So if you're wondering about snow, they're making it up there at night when it's cold. We're gonna have a great time. And there is a trivia night. So if you're not a skier or a snowboarder, come anyway, participate. The St. Bernard Room is a great place to hang out. After all, carrots may be good for your eyes, but booze will make you see double. Summarize.
Yeah, try to plug it garage. I'm not gonna
So February 22nd, and it does say 4 to 9, but if you are a skier or a snowboarder and you want to go, their Thrifty Thursday begins at 3. I usually take advantage of that because I like the daylight. But whenever you get off work, whenever you're ready to go up there, it's worth it, the lift ticket and the trivia night. So come and socialize the Rotary.
Come see double.
Trivia night, last year we didn't do something. Oh, and bring friends as we lead into membership March. Bring some friends, any colleagues that you have that are interested in skiing or trivia. Get some people up there.
Come see double. Shark Tank. Yes, next meeting. Anybody want? You want to talk about it? Yeah, not here.
Oh.
I'll talk about it. So Shark Tank is our next meeting. We have 2 pitches identified right now. There might be a third. Come with all your energy. Come and listen to the pitches. And for anybody who is a guest, this is like based off the TV show. Groups will pitch a service event, and then we will vote on it by sharing $100, I think it is. You get to put your money where it most suits you, and the winner will get $5,000 from this club and $5,000 matching grant from the district. And then as a club, we get to serve the community by whatever event has been chosen or project. So please come, and if you have any ideas, bring it with you and share it. And if you have not spoken with Sierra yet and you have a pitch, talk to her ASAP, please. Awesome. TriCon. It'll be in Green Bay, April 18th to 20th. I'm already registered. Who's going to join me? You're there? Here's what? Oh, your mom. Okay. If you can make it, it'll be fun. I know Green Bay is about 3 hours. So come ride in my car with me, please. So it looks, I love that a lot of this stuff. It looks like it's going to be an awesome weekend.
Are on the board and what they like about it. So these are the open positions: president-elect nominee, treasurer-elect, director, sergeant-at-arms, and secretary-elect. If you're on the board, this is who you get to be with next year. Me, Lisa, Phil, Lori, Alicia, Neil, and then we're gonna add the rest of you, and this is just gonna be so much fun. So if I could have Phil
and Neil and Ashton will talk about their positions and what they do, and just kind of give us a little, you don't have to read off of it, just give your own little spiel.
Being the face of the club.
A more peppy way, let's do it.
Just joking. Well, to be president, well, I'm still figuring it out.
At least. Could I go click, got it, please?
Is this a touching thing? Oh, it is. Okay.
So.
Oh, perfect. Great. You did such a cheerful job. So if you're cheerful, that's gonna be a shot at the front.
This is only my second day as secretary of elect. I was strongly encouraged with passing moving away of the building, and it so far is a perfect fit because doing meetings and the minutes are what I do at work. So yeah, it's perfect for me. But so far, and that's what I wanted to be strongly encouraged for.
And last but not least, Sergeant at Arms.
I'm the sergeant at arms. It basically means that you run all of the meeting like slideshows and Zooms and everything. That's kind of why I was running around, because our Zoom wasn't working. So you just kind of make sure the meeting runs smoothly and everyone who's on Zoom can see it. Everything here is ready to go. I didn't really apply for it. I just kind of like started doing it, so I don't really have a reason. But it's been fun. So
good work. You're doing awesome. And you made a really good to-do list of how to do everything. Yeah. Really helpful. Perfect. So that's kind of like what the board does. And then I'll catch up here from everyone. So we're gonna go quickly through this. Here's your top 3 reasons why you should join. So get to know the club and committees. It's great leadership experience and grow your involvement in the club. So next, here's kind of the voting timeline. I'm gonna take nominations through this week, and then if you think that you didn't do your one online, I brought them with. And if you forgot a pen, I brought those too. So we're gonna do that, and you get to turn them into this awesome Office Depot box that I'm going to put over by me. Because I really want everyone to have a fair shot of giving new members, older members, you know, there's many positions. Even if you just want to put down one name that you think they'd be great, just so we can get some involvement and be great just to see. So yeah, that is that.
Thank you. And our next guest, Ida. Ida's gonna give an update with all the great stuff that's been going on this year and what she's looking forward to.
So now I have been here for a couple of months, since August, and it's definitely been like a ride. So there's been a lot of up and down, but I really like it here, and like from the start I really liked it, and I'm really grateful for a lot of the people I've met and befriended. And in the start it was very easy for me, I feel like, to adjust, because I had my hostess person who kind of kept me busy and who helped me get a lot of friends from school who took me in because she's a senior at Alaska High School. And then I've also gotten to get my own friends besides from that. And then when I got to change families, which also is a great opportunity to see different kinds of families, how people live. And something I really like about here is how the school is very different. That you get the opportunity to choose your own classes, where at home I just have like, it's just my teachers who choose what I have, and it's like more general knowledge to get at home, where here you can like kind of more choose and like make it more for your like hobbies, like your interests. And then I like how there's like a lot of like the classes here that I can't get at home because those classes are more expected that you already know it. Like I have right now, I have personal finance and principles of leadership, which is a class I really like. And so I was like, this is kind of general knowledge, but like I feel like it's nice to like get it like make that the school makes sure that you know it, especially with personal finance. We don't get that at home, which I feel like is very good that you can teach because it's just like to get you like ready for like the world when you get out, where we're just expected to know it. And then I've gotten to with my first host family, we went to Duluth, which was it was pretty cold there. I like Alaska better across, but it was fun to see at the side. And then I've had some day trips to like Madison and Minnesota. And something I really want to experience still is I feel like it could be really fun to experience one of like the big professional football games or basketball games. That's also something I really like about here, how school sports is such a big thing. That people actually like care about each other's sports events. At home, people don't really care. It's just like you have your things, we don't really care. Where here people actually go and like support each other, and it's like the student section, how everyone from school have like a section where you like go and then there's things that you dress up for and just go to support each other. I really like that. Also because then you actually have like something to do and don't have to plan it for like how you have to like stay at someone's house all the time. You have like something to do. And then something I was kind of expecting, it was like the food. It's not the healthiest. I was expecting it, but it's still kind of shocked me in the start. But something I still was pleasantly surprised with. I thought the school lunch would be worse. It's not bad actually. I thought it was gonna be very bad, but it's not too bad. You get options at least. So but it's not bad, but I was expecting worse. So and I also like how like something that's also very, very different is like how everyone drives around instead of where at home it's more like you walk, you take a bicycle or public transport, because driving also people don't, when you get the opportunity to get your driver's license at home, people still wait because you don't really need it, also because it's way more expensive to get it. So people probably first get it when a lot of people already like wait till they're training to get it, because we have the public transport or everything's just like near close enough to just walk or bicycle. And especially if you're in Copenhagen, it's kind of dangerous with how many bicycles there is. Like instead of a parking lot, we have like parking lots for bicycles. Like I'm not even kidding. It's like everywhere. But yeah, that was very different for me also to start having to ask everyone for a ride if I need to get to a game or something like that. Always having to ask someone for a ride. But I feel like it's always also all of these different things have made me. I feel like I've learned a lot of it, like being more taking more initiative to like ask people for it, because at home I would more like just find out my own, and now I'll have to like be more better to like ask people, which I feel like I've grown a lot with. And then I feel like there's like I'm also very appreciative of like this opportunity I've gotten, because I've been put in many situations I wouldn't have at home, since I don't have my parents who always can rely on. now because they're on the other side of the globe. So, but I feel like that has made me like grow a lot also, personally, I will say. And yeah, I'm excited for the rest. Yeah.
Thank you. Well spoken. Great job. Thank you. And if you have a chance to do something with Ida over the next couple of months, please reach out to her. Maybe somebody can take you to a basketball game. What's around here? Milwaukee Bucks. Thank you. I'm a Celtics fan, sorry. Jumping right in. We're gonna jump into speaking more about creating Open the World. And we have some guests with us from New Horizons and the La Crosse Police Department. So come on. Welcome.
So Lexi's handing out some folders right now with some information that we'll talk about. I just have to give a shout out to Lexi. She was an intern with us from Viterbo last semester and is just phenomenal and is now an outreach advocate. So she's flexible and was willing to come here tonight and kind of see what it's like to do a presentation. So again, I'm Heidi and I'm Brooke. And I'm going to talk to you, we're going to talk to you about human trafficking. But first, who has heard of New Horizons in here? Okay, so a good number of people. Who knew that we work with victims and survivors of trafficking? Okay, not too bad. So this is a very condensed version of a training that I usually go out and do. We're going to talk about sex and labor trafficking, a little more heavy on the sex trafficking. There aren't any swear words or anything, but it is a little intense. I do want to just give a trigger warning because 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men have experienced abuse at some point in their life, and you never know when material might affect you in a certain type of way, so you need to take care of yourself, okay? But I will just go ahead. There is a video in my presentation that Phil will send out to everybody afterwards, just because we won't be able to have the sound here tonight. We have something being right behind you. My contact information. What comes to mind for you when you hear human trafficking? Let's say you hear about it on the news or it comes up in conversation. What's the first kind of thing that pops into your head?
Prostitution.
Yeah, thank you.
Abuse.
Yep.
Kidnapping.
Vulnerability.
Absolutely. So yeah, all really good. So you'll see the images up on the screen here. A lot of times when the topic of human trafficking comes up, these are the visuals that come to mind, right? People in shackles and chains, someone being taken, like in the movie Taken, taken to another country, across borders. And while that does happen, certainly human trafficking can look a lot different locally than it does in other parts of the country or even internationally. Trafficking does happen in our community. And I think Brooke can speak to that a little bit too, just from a law enforcement perspective.
Yeah, human trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, it does happen. It's definitely underreported to police. And I know Heidi will kind of go into a little bit more details on that. But there's just so many stigmas behind it. There's fear behind it. There's the control piece behind it. That was kind of mentioned. So that's where a lot of victims just don't come to police to report it. And then if they do, to go through the court process, judicial process, testifying, if it goes to court, it gets to be too much.
So just some myths about human trafficking, but it's always a violent crime. There's a lot of coercive control that goes into labor and sex trafficking. There is not always violence, although there could be the threat of violence to the person that's being trafficked or their loved one, or someone they've grown close to that's also being trafficked. Traffickers target victims they don't know. Oftentimes it is someone a person knows. It could be a family member, it could be a partner, it could be a friend. It's not human trafficking if the person initially consented to the situation, and now they don't want to be in that situation anymore. Just because a person consented initially does not mean that it's okay. If a person says they want something to stop, then it needs to stop. Again, going back to moving, traveling, or going across borders, yes, that does happen, but it also is common to happen locally. Only women and girls are victims. That is also not the case. Trafficking can happen to anyone regardless of gender identity. And in fact, folks in the LGBTQ+ community experience trafficking at a much higher rate than those who don't identify in that way. And it only happens in illegal or underground industries. Also not true. Case in point, locally in Trumbull County, where we provide services, we do see a lot more labor trafficking than here in La Crosse, and there are farms and bigger name businesses that employ folks. Well, they don't employ them, they traffic them. So this is the video. It's about 6 minutes, so I recommend watching it. There's actually a whole series of short clips that really breaks down trafficking if it's something that you're really interested in learning more about. So we'll break down some definitions a little bit here first. So there's sex trafficking, not to be confused with sex work. A person can choose sex work as a profession. They have choice and autonomy over their body, whereas if a person is being sex trafficked, they do not. Labor trafficking, so we have bonded labor and debt bondage. That would mean, you know, a person comes to this country or to this community, and a person pays their way to get here, and then they are forced to work that off and really never work it off. Forced labor, very similar again, but a person is brought to work and not paid. Their documents are withheld from them. They're not allowed to talk to friends or family. And then child labor. So where does it happen? Many places. I know there was mention of the Super Bowl earlier. That's actually one of the top events in the country where sex trafficking is rampant every year. Major sporting events, concerts, you can see a list. You know, there's the places that a lot of people might think of, right? So escort services, strip clubs, recreational facilities. So there are kids being recruited into trafficking at Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs. Not saying locally, but generally speaking, that's where vulnerable youth are targeted. Do you have anything to add about any of that? Okay. Another way that trafficking can happen as well would be through social media and virtual types of ways. So, you know, live streaming or people being prostituted or trafficked online to go on dates. Trafficking in Wisconsin, so this is a little bit outdated, but the Polaris website has not updated with anything recent. I would like to say, so 95 cases with 166 victims, that is highly underreported, as Brooke said. What do you notice about that map? Like kind of where those hot spots are? Does anything stand out to you?
Big cities?
Byways.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So we notice it more where there are interstates, right, or highways connecting the larger cities, easier to transport both. So when we have a case locally, so let's say a person comes forward and says they're being trafficked, or there's an investigation done, or is it La Crosse Police Department alone that investigates those types of crimes?
So no, I mean, if something comes in within the parameters of the city of La Crosse, we will team these and we will work with victim advocates. We will work with if there's something with the hospital, if there's injuries, so we'll work with just a team and gather who needs to be a part of that. But as far as the criminal aspect, the investigator would actually take that criminal piece.
Thank you. And so when we're talking about trafficking, there are ways by which trafficking happens from a legal perspective, right? And it's called the AMP model: action, means, and purpose. So there needs to be an action that's happening. Means would be how is it happening, and then the purpose, why is it happening. Important to point out with this, if a person is under the age of 18, we don't have to prove means at all. It is automatically considered trafficking. So for an example, an action, someone is recruited by force to participate in commercial sex, then we're proving the action, means, and purpose. Does that make sense? Yep. We'll break down the force, fraud, and coercion a little bit more. Oftentimes, traffickers are able to kind of pick out folks that have vulnerabilities, or they have basic needs that need to be met, whether that be food, clothing, love. And so it's this cycle that can continue, and we can see up here then there's the force, so that could be physical and or sexual assault that's happening. Fraud, so false promises, hey, come work for me, I'll get you this really great job, and then never pay you, don't allow you to go out of the house. If you do get to go out of the house, there's going to be somebody with you at all times to keep an eye on you. If you try to run or you tell anyone, we're gonna find your family, you know, living in wherever, and do something to them. And then coercion, so again, threatening to harm self or others, and not allowing a person to have that autonomy and freedom. Do you have a question?
You also possibly nurture somebody into it, but mind games, manipulation.
Yes.
So you have to be able to prove that.
Yes, you have to be able to show it, and there's different ways to show it. It's buying gifts, extravagant gifts. It can be taking someone out of a trip, again, an extravagant thing, an event. So you can show that as maybe evidence for the case. That would be the cause for a charge. But yeah, it helps build your case as an investigator.
Good question. Also, if anyone else has other questions, feel free to just ask as we go through, and we'll talk a little bit more too about what's called grooming. So one of the items, there's a few different pieces in your folders, but the next thing that we'll talk about is the power and control wheel that's specific for sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Is anyone familiar with the power and control wheel, or have you heard about it before? Okay, a few people. So really this is the basis of the work that we do. Violence, abuse is all rooted in power and control. So one person exerting power and control over another person. That's the core of domestic and sexual violence work, as well as trafficking. So when you take a look at the wheel, you can see there's many pieces of the pie here, so to speak, but there's a lot of different ways in which a person can be controlled, or someone can have power over another person. One of the things that we do as advocates when we meet with somebody, whether it be a victim of trafficking or domestic or sexual violence, is we will sit down with a power and control wheel and talk through this and say, hey, highlight or circle or underline things that you've experienced, because often victims don't always know that something that has happened to them is a form of abuse. And so really it's naming it, allowing that person to take that power back, and then working through that. So you can see there are, you know, a lot of physical things that can happen, but there's also the emotional abuse, isolation. When a person does not have a circle of support, it is much harder for them to get out of a situation where they are being controlled, being trafficked. Any economic folks in the room? So why does trafficking happen? Supply and demand. There are people that want a service, and there are people that are then providing that service, fulfilling that demand, which would be either sex or labor services. And that's essentially what it is. It's very difficult to combat human trafficking because there's always that demand for the types of things that people are selling others for. So grooming, that's also in your folder here. So these relationships between a perpetrator and a victim happen over time. It's not like you maybe would see on a movie where someone gets off a bus and there's a person that says, hey, new to the city, I'll come take, you know, I'll take care of you, I'll help you out. A relationship is formed, trust is built, and then the person slowly gets broken down. So we have the targeting, gaining the trust from the person, filling a need. So clothing, trips, love, food, shelter. One way that we see trafficking locally in our unsheltered community is a person needs a place to stay. There might be a person with a tent over here. They say, yep, you can come stay with me, but you also need to do X, Y, Z with my 3 buddies over here. We hear stories like that, unfortunately, quite often. There's the isolation piece then, again, so not allowing a person to maintain those social connections. They can't go to church, they can't go hang out with friends. Even going to the grocery store, you go to the store, but you're back in 30 minutes, otherwise this is gonna happen. The abuse begins and then the control happens. And so one of the things that we get asked a lot is, well, why doesn't a person just leave? I saw a Rebecca Bender, Google her if you've never heard of her. She's a sex trafficking survivor. She came and spoke at First Free Church a couple years ago. And one of the folks in the audience asked the question, well, why didn't you just leave? And she said, well, I did. I'm here now in front of you because I did leave, but it was not that easy to leave. It took years for her to get out. And that's because of that control and threats of violence and really a person being broken down to the point where they just don't feel like there's any other option for themselves.
Things like non-threats, like they do physically harm to the point where like they know that it's going to happen again at work.
Yeah.
People with holding their kids.
Yeah. Using kids, absolutely. Or physically hurting someone else that's also being trafficked and using them as an example. So some vulnerabilities and risk factors, for sure, folks that have unstable living conditions or are unhoused. If there's a history of domestic or sexual abuse, when a person grows up not knowing what a healthy relationship looks like, not learning what boundaries are, it can be very difficult then for them as they grow up to form those healthy bonds with people. So then the unhealthy relationship pattern continues. Caregiver or family member who has substance use issues, using a child as a means to get money for drugs or alcohol. Runaway or homeless youth, absolutely. In our community, even if you think about it, where do you go if they are not safe in their home? we can shelter individuals that are 17, but anyone younger than that, we cannot. We have programs in the community that work with kids, but that don't provide shelter. So when you have a youth that's out on the streets and someone offers them a safe place, they're getting that need met, right? To have a safe place to go. Involved in the juvenile justice or foster care system, undocumented folks, super vulnerable population. And like I said, we see that in Trumbull County with a lot of our Latina and Latino neighbors up there. Poverty or folks that have an economic need, addiction to drug and alcohol, and then historical trauma and cultural loss. So folks from communities that have been historically marginalized are at a higher risk as well for trafficking. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to make sure to talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. When we talk about trafficking, it's been happening in our Indigenous communities for centuries, and it's not talked about enough. So just some statistics up here. About 5,200 estimated taken, according to the FBI National Crime Info Center in 2021. Again, likely underreported. Our Indigenous women and girls are disappearing at a rate equal to more than 2.5 times their estimated share of the US population. Indigenous women are 2 times more likely to be victims of rape compared to white women and 3 times more likely to be murdered. Murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women, and it's often perpetrated by non-Native people. And then over half of Indigenous women experience sexual violence and physical violence. So why is this happening and why don't we talk about it more? Why is it happening is a whole other conversation, but I encourage you to do some research. Lack of awareness, we don't have the data. Distrust in systems. We live in a country where Native children were taken from their homes and families and displaced for years. So there's a distrust in systems and reporting, right? Media bias, we often hear about the young white women that are taken or kidnapped, not always the Indigenous women. And with youth, Native youth are more often declared as runaways by law enforcement versus an investigation started into why they're missing. And then just a general overall historic sexualizing of Indigenous women. So seeing them as sex symbols. So what are some red flags? So that's the third handout that's in your folder there. And then we also have some bookmarks that have some kind of red flags and things to look out for. And while some of these can happen, does not always mean that there's human trafficking, but it's worth asking questions and having conversations with a person in your life or youth that you might have worries for. So truancy, running away, or homelessness. A significantly older partner or controlling adult, a history of domestic violence, a person doesn't have control over their schedule or their money, or they might have a lot of money, or you might see them with things that you question, can they afford them or not, right? Injuries, tattoos, branding is something that does happen among sex traffickers. Could just be, I mean, this is not, but you know, everyone has the same tattoo, right? That's the trafficker's way of branding the person. Over sexualized behavior, fear, distrust, and authority, unwilling or unable to identify as a victim. So I would say I've been with New Horizons 4 years. I have met only a handful of folks that have said to me or us, okay, that I've been trafficked. A lot of times folks don't recognize that they've been trafficked, and that's not our job to say, you're being sex trafficked, right? But we kind of recognize the signs, and so then we can work with them in different ways. But most times a person does not come forward and say they're being trafficked. Labor trafficking, I'm just gonna, because I only have a couple minutes left and I want to leave time for questions, but again, this will be sent out to you. Why don't they leave? Question we get in this work all the time. Not only with trafficking victims, but victims of domestic and sexual violence. Specifically here, the person is dependent on their trafficker. They're filling all their needs. They're in an unfamiliar place, so they don't know where they can go for help. There are people watching them. There's the violence and the threats. They may love their trafficker. They want what's happening to stop, but they love them. Abuse is normalized. Again, that distrust in systems, fear, lack of support and connection, shame, and cultural norms. So it might, you know, in a certain culture, be seen as not okay to leave the situation, especially if it's a family member that is the trafficker. And then what are some challenges that we face as service providers? And then I invite you to jump in too, as law enforcement. So victim identification, people, again, not identifying as a trafficked person, fear of seeking help. We don't have the resources to meet the complex needs of folks that have been trafficked. Lack of recognition of trafficking crimes, and then not all entities have victim-centered approaches, and so that might scare a person off once they have reported. They don't want to continue going through that process.
Yeah, and in addition, just one thing I want to add is that, so if someone does finally report, and they want to have a criminal investigation, they want to go through the whole thing, we obviously don't know. A jury and a judge would decide if they're convicted, if they can have no contact, like what happens after that. So that whole piece, and like I said, it can take time, of course, to do the whole process. But that's another thing, there's no guarantee that that their perpetrator would actually be found guilty and sent to prison. So that's a difficulty. Thank you.
Heavy topic, any questions?
I did want to leave, oh, sorry, go ahead.
If we do see red flags, what do we do?
Well, so one of the things that's super important, I think, with any victim of any form of violence is for them to not feel alone. So I think it's okay as a friend or a family member to go to that person and say, hey, I noticed that you're not allowed to have your cell phone. Why is that? It's okay to ask questions. And if a person does open up to you, then to for sure validate their experiences, let them know that you believe them and be a support. Not everyone, what can be difficult is not everyone wants to go that next step and get help. That's okay. We can also be a resource even for you. If you just want to talk through a scenario and we can kind of offer some options, but definitely just being a support for the person.
To kind of lead off of that, to kind of leave you guys with hope. What can we all do as community members? And exactly, if you see something, you gotta listen to your gut. I'm like, okay, this is weird, this is that, this isn't right, you know what I mean? And then yeah, slowly talk to them. Maybe you're not trying to like delve into their personal life, and many times they won't tell you anyway. But you can try to build some trust and give them those resources. Give them New Horizons information, give them like, hey, go to the hospital, get checked out, because obviously the hospital has resources for all that. So yeah, if you guys see something at schools, if you know, kids come home and they're saying, hey, my friend or so-and-so at school ran away, that's a red flag. It's obviously runaways. Yeah, where do they go? Where are they going to turn to? So yeah, kind of delve into that. Talk to those counselors at school, let them know, let teachers know. As a community, we're there to help everyone out. We're there to help each other out, each other's kids out. So yeah, just reach out. You can definitely reach out to police or to New Horizons, of course. Like I said, we're always there, just wanting to charge someone. I mean, that's our goal. Like, hey, what do we get? Like, what kind of evidence do you want to get? Especially in these cases. But these take time to build, and we need all the evidence that we can possibly get. And they can just take time. So that's where we usually say, okay, we'll try to slowly work with them, talk to them. If they don't want to talk to us, do horizons, start talking to advocates, start talking to people, again, to break the isolation piece.
Yeah, and we work really well with law enforcement. We also, though, the majority of our staff are not mandated reporters, and we are held by very strict confidentiality. So even if Brooke were to send someone our way, and then she gives me a call a week later and says, so how to go with Jane Smith? Sorry, I can't tell you.
Like, I don't know, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like, yep.
Yeah, it is a heavy topic, it's dark, sorry, but yeah, there is hope. And
Do you know, like, much comes of, like, a lot of times, like, the quick trip bathrooms and stuff, you see the signs that say, are you experiencing trans? Do you know if much ever comes out of those specifically, like, people kind of reaching out because they saw that in the quick trip bathroom or whatever?
So it's probably what you're talking about is like the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Like there's the number on there. There are statistics on their website. I don't know numbers for sure, but certainly check out. I mean, I think there are people, well, I know there are people that call. As far as going through from like reaching out for help to prosecution and something happening, I don't know.
That's a good point. As far as like your occupations, we get calls from people who work at a hotel, from quick trip employees, like, hey, this is kind of odd. The age difference, huge age gap, this seems weird. So yeah, we get those calls from people working.
I'm just curious about, like, we talked about the supply and demand. Is there anything being done on the demand side? Like,
I mean, I know that there have been in La Crosse specifically some stings that have taken place where John, specifically with sex trafficking, are being arrested and prosecuted.
Yeah, it gets to be very difficult because the demand's always going to be there. Just like, I mean, I hate to make the comparison, but drugs are always going to be smuggled in. We keep trying as law enforcement to get to like the lead or the main, or you know what I mean, to kind of cut off more of that supply. And it's always there. There's always someone else picking it back up, but we're trying, absolutely. There's other ideas. Yes, it's been a while since we've done one. We also have to get the support from the hotel, and that's never an incentive for the hotel. Because normally they're in the paper, they're on the news the next day. If this hotel had this person staying there and they were arrested for this, so they usually don't like us afterward, but yeah.
I think prevention is huge too. So if we want to talk about these topics, support our families and our youth, support our most vulnerable folks in our communities, so then they're not at as high of a risk of abuse being perpetrated against them. I think that's a huge start. Not to put it on victims. I mean, I definitely think like it's in our mission, perpetrators should be held accountable, but how do we do that, right? With our justice system and all that.
I went over.
Thank you guys. Sorry. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know this is a heavy topic, so if you want to talk or anything, I'll be up here afterwards. But before we leave, again, reiterating that next Tuesday, we're having the planning session, the brainstorming. It is such an important evening for all of us to get together. So just to put a little thing in your brain, it's so easy to get bent out of shape, or upset about, oh, we're gonna have another meeting, we're gonna talk about what we're gonna be doing. I want to spin it around to a positive thing, okay? Since July 1st, what Rotary After Hours has actually accomplished or done or gotten together throughout those months, this is what I personally have calculated so far. And then there is a second side. So just keep that in mind. And with all this stuff, the question is, what do you want to do personally? And that is the evening where you will be heard and we'll have a friendly discussion about it. So please, if you are able to come, even if for an hour, 2 hours, please come. There will be food and a lot of laughing, I hope. And then anything else for the good of the order?
Where's this strategic meeting?
UWL. In that science thing.
The health science.
I don't do health or science. Health science building. Another email will go out, just so you are aware. 5 o'clock. It will start at 5 o'clock with food. Bring your smiles, bring your warmth, and we will have a great time. So with that, please rise. 5-way. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And will it be fun? Thank you very much.